Viewers, the rhetoric is sharpening, the stakes are rising, and the global mood is turning darker. US President Donald Trump's renewed talk of taking over Greenland is no longer being dismissed as political bluster. The US will deploy a North American Aerospace Defense Command aircraft at the Pitufik Space Base in Greenland. NORAD has said that the aircraft will arrive at the base to support various long-planned activities. They've also said that this action is being taken in coordination with Denmark and Greenland. The US move follows a multinational military exercise led by Danish forces amidst tensions with Washington. Meanwhile, strengthening his push to acquire Denmark's territory, Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on Denmark and other European countries, including UK, unless they agree to sell Greenland.
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property.
But is there more to it than meets the eye? We saw what the United States did in Venezuela. There are fears that Trump may just bully Denmark into submission if they don't agree to his Greenland proposal. Should that be the case, could Denmark even stand a chance is a question that many are asking. What are we really looking at in terms of Denmark and its possibility even of stopping Trump? Look at the naval strength as far as US and Denmark is concerned. 440 versus 50, beg your pardon. Aircraft carriers 11-0, submarines 17-0, helicopter carriers 9-0, 81 destroyers versus 0, corvettes 26 versus 0. This is as far as the military firepower of the United States is concerned. Coming up on the other side, a conversation that I had with Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain a short while earlier.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
To better understand the implications of what really is happening in terms of geopolitics, the implications for India, the implications for the world at large, let me go first and foremost to Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain. And sir, let me first ask you, what are we to make of the US's sudden interest in Greenland? You know, what President Trump is doing is, of course, in direct conflict with his own NATO partners in the EU. And we've seen statements to that effect coming in. Now we're looking at, the US moving some kind of military assets, or at least the threat of it moving towards Greenland. What really is going on, sir? And how serious is the situation there in your assessment?
Thank you very much, Madhav, for first of all inviting me. I think this is a very interesting and a very important program. For the last 1 year, we've been hearing from President Trump his interest in Greenland, and we've always been wondering why this particular interest. Somehow, media in India and many parts of the world also have not been able to seriously justify or examine this whole issue, which it seems to be occupying President Trump's. To my mind, putting it in very simple terms, and I'm no expert on space warfare or on Arctic warfare, but simply the issue is that under the 1951 agreement between the United States and Denmark, the US has already got access. They've got 17 bases inside Greenland. There is no problem, radar stations, they've got troops who are stationed there. There are just about 57,000 occupants, citizens of Greenland, and there are fairly large number of assets of the United States already there. But what the United States does not have in Greenland is sovereignty. It does not have political control over the citizens, over the territory. For everything, it has to negotiate with Denmark. What Mr. Trump is perhaps looking at is the future, when issues which may relate to trust within NATO itself, and you've seen there have been trust-based issues within NATO in the last couple of years also. What he wants is total political control, the ability to move in and out assets as many as he wants. The prime military purpose behind it is this is the place from where the distance from Russia to mainland United States and China to mainland United States is almost halved. And therefore, it lies in a very particular strategic location from where the surveillance of incoming missiles space-based missiles coming in from space can easily be sort of monitored in an earlier time frame than anywhere else. So it's not as if the United States is worried about something which is happening immediately today or tomorrow. It is the future. And the future, the United States, to my conjecture, wants to have total control on a territory which may be strategically very important tomorrow.
But what prevents them from doing that from the existing military bases? Surely they would be enough to set up that kind of a surveillance or a radar mechanism to monitor, any arms or any missiles that might be fired. Is there more to it than that? Is it also the navigation routes, the maritime routes that now have perhaps opened up due to climate change? How are you looking at it from that perspective?
You are absolutely right. There is no doubt submarine routes have opened up here. Lots of surface routes on the sea have opened up here due to overall climate change and global warming. And this will continue progressing in an unpredictable kind of a way into the future. The United States as a superpower obviously wants control over different segments of the globe, those segments particularly which make a difference to its own strategic safety, security. I have written something on this and analyzed it too, where I drew the analogy of Siachen as far as India is concerned. You see, India is also concerned about Siachen Glacier. And a lot of people say that's a wasteful, absolutely a wasted area, not a blade of grass grows there, no human existence, etc. What people don't realize is one of the prime reasons why India continued to hold Siachen was for strategic reasons. We do not know what 30 years later, what kind of technologies are going to be available in the world. You're going to find the possibility of movement of all kinds of traffic over ice and snow. Who knew that permafrost would become a reality and China would construct a railway line over permafrost into Tibet? No one knew this many years ago. So we are looking at the unpredictable futures and the development of technology. The same analogy can apply to Greenland, where you find the United States is looking at those in unpredictable times and technologies which develop tomorrow, which can pose major threats to counter their presence in Greenland itself. Right. And they want that kind of sovereignty to make sure that they can change laws, change occupation sites, take over facilities, etc., without having to refer back to anyone in it.
Right. We're also looking at a situation. He's actually put out, an image in which Canada, Venezuela, and Greenland are a part of, the United States territory in a map, where he's sitting before several world leaders, including presidents of several of those countries, including EU countries. What is the message that he's trying to send out, that these are, part of a larger United States? Because if here in India, many would read that as a sign of imperialist ambitions of the United States.
First of all, Madhav, I mean, no way am I justifying these actions which have been done by the United States or the manner in which the United States and Mr. Trump are looking at Greenland. What I'm doing is a conjecturing, primarily to see what could be in the minds of the deep state in the United States and President Trump himself. Now that you have said this, he looks at Venezuela, he looks at Canada, he looks at Greenland and considered as part of greater United States. Obviously, Mr. Trump has a completely different way of looking at things. He doesn't look into the near future or even the further future. He looks into the furthest future and thinks that homeland security for the United States will ultimately mean having a control over territories which are far and furthest away from their homeland. Remember, as far as homeland security is concerned, the United States has never been invaded. The last time it happened was Pearl Harbor, which was still very far away from mainland United States. It happened. 9/11 was in the heart of, but it was a completely different kind of a threat. It was terrorism, not conventional warfare. So the U.S. has never suffered a homeland threats as such. And this is something which they are always concerned about, that it should never happen that a homeland threat should develop towards their inner areas.
Right. But, there are many who are questioning whether this kind of paranoia, or whatever one chooses to call it, is really justified, and how much of it is about strategic survivability in the long-term basis, and how much of this, is driven by a domestic political posturing, or perhaps even transactional diplomacy, as we've seen the term coming more into popular lexicon after the rise of President Trump.
President Trump is no doubt has his own way of doing things, and you have to get into his mind really to understand what goes on there. Very, very unpredictable, as you're aware, and completely transactional in his approach to diplomacy and transnational security as such. Having said that, I think a lot of people who drive this in the United States are also members of what is called the deep state. And a lot of people are perhaps looking at technology in a completely different way. The manner in which artificial intelligence has suddenly manifested in the last 5 to 6 years is frightening for a lot of people. And that is what perhaps is petrifying a lot of people to think that the threats to the United States can manifest in different other ways. And therefore, they are trying to imagine and push outwards to make sure that those threats are kept away as far as possible.
Right.
Many of these threats today cannot even be identified by us. The manner in which technology moves forward, we still don't know.
Right. Also, last year we've seen Pakistan sign a security pact with Saudi. There are also reports that Turkey could join that pact as well. And recently, we've seen India moving closer to signing a security pact with UAE. Do you see this as a counter to the Pakistan-Saudi-Turkey pact? And you have also argued, for instance, what is being described as an Islamic NATO is actually a convergence of ambition, anxiety and opportunism and not a coherent defense analysis. How do you analyze this in terms of Pakistan's wariness of the transactional nature of US engagement, particularly under Trump?
Well, with Mr. Trump's encouragement in the last 1 year, Pakistan's stock, no doubt, has risen diplomatically, strategically, of course not economically, but strategically definitely. It seems to be punching much above its weight. We are hearing that it has also been included into the Gaza plan as a part of that board of people who are going to look after the overseeing of the Gaza administration and things of that nature. But coming back to the specific question on the Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey coming together, it actually is an expression of anxiety. Turkey, would it want to be seen to be more Arab, more Middle Eastern, against its century-old concept of it drawing closer to Europe? That was the dream of Kemal Pasha, if you remember, 1923 at that time, when he established the Turkish rule post the Ottoman Empire and did away with everything Arabic and went into Latin as a language and drew himself closer to Europe. No doubt, Turkey has not been accepted into the European Union, but it forms a very important part of NATO. And the security of Turkey is also dependent hugely on NATO, or being a part of NATO. Remember, it is one of the nearby nations of the Black Sea. Looking at Russia on the other side, it is always under threat from that angle. So I don't think Turkey is essentially posturing at this time, showing its importance of a return to, being one of the flagship kind of nations of bearing the standards of Islam. It wants to be in competition with different other stakeholders like Iran and Saudi Arabia, etc. But among all this, I don't think this is really a agreement of which is has any strategic connotation. It is more for morale, for motivation, that kind of a thing at the moment to, as I said, for projection. The UAE-India story which is going on at the moment also is primarily more of a strategic partnership emerging. It takes time for a partnership of this kind to emerge. It's not something which will happen overnight. A lot of consultation work is going on together. So we are doing very well with trade, with energy, with intelligence, with the AI and things of that nature, technologies and things of that nature. And no doubt a tremendous amount of trust has been built up between the UAE and India. So it's not as if we have got a equally opposite kind of organization just to balance out what has happened between Turkey, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. But definitely the UAE is definitely looking at India as a counterweight.
Right. Very important message also that was given by the External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, where he has highlighted selective targeting of India, which it has faced in the aftermath of Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor during his meeting with the Polish counterpart. But that wasn't it. The minister also warned Poland, urging it to maintain zero tolerance for terrorism and not help fuel terrorist infrastructure in our neighborhood. Is India still suffering from the hyphenation, with Pakistan having to prove our credibility with these kind of statements coming in?
Well, I think over a period of time, we had managed to dehyphenate ourselves to a great extent, particularly from an economic angle. But I think it's only more of convenience of travel which leads to this, where you find the Polish Deputy Defense Minister coming first to Islamabad and then coming to Delhi and things of that nature. There was a time when the American president used to invariably do that. Fortunately, they have not been doing it in the recent past any time. More for convenience of travel than anything else. But India will definitely resist it. India is in a class apart completely. We are seen to be a rising middle power. We are a middle power, seen to be a rising big power. A member of BRICS and member of so many other organizations. And we are definitely punching well within our weight. Pakistan doesn't have that capability. I mean, it is staying afloat economically based on IMF loans, 23, 24, such loans which have come over a period of time. At the moment, I think transactionally, it is kind of punching above his weight, perhaps, because Mr. Trump is giving it that kind of a backing. With Mr. Trump and the United States, you cannot depend. The next 1 year, you may find a completely different sea change. You may find the sea change on the 1st of January next year. So
right.
we don't know how it's going to work out completely. As far as India is concerned, we are steadfast in our policy, in our foreign policy. We have seen that we have maintained our autonomy. The most important aspect, I think, of our entire foreign policy has been the strategic autonomy, which has drawn the kind of respect from all around the world.
General Hasnain, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us here at Times Now.
Thank you so much.
The News Hour at 10.